an original narrative, created especially for Shadows of Love. The photograph trembled in Sophia Reeves' hand as snowflakes melted against the window of her mountain refuge. A ghost stared back at her. Gabriel Castellano's reflection, captured in the glass door of her witness protection shelter. A man whose funeral she had attended 3 years ago. Outside, the storm intensified, sealing them all inside this converted monastery, where traumatized witnesses waited to testify against the city's most dangerous criminals. Sophia's phone vibrated with an unknown number as she moved away from her staff, heart pounding against her ribs. When she answered, his voice emerged from the darkness like smoke. "Someone inside your shelter is compromised. When they ask, pretend you're with me." The line went dead, leaving her alone with an impossible choice. Trust the devil she once helped hunt, or watch everything she'd built collapse under the weight of his dangerous secret. Sophia Reeves stood at the window of the converted monastery, watching Snow Blanket, the mountain pass that served as their only connection to the outside world. The isolation that made this shelter perfect for protecting witnesses now felt like a trap. Her fingers tightened around the envelope that had arrived with the morning's supply delivery. Inside was a single photograph, a reflection in the shelter's glass door, capturing a man whose funeral she had attended 3 years ago. Gabriel Castellano, the crime lord whose network she had helped dismantle, was watching her sanctuary. Director Reeves, Marta, her security chief, appeared at her side. "The storm's cutting off the road completely. We're officially on lockdown protocol." Sophia nodded, sliding the photograph into her pocket. "How many witnesses are currently in residence?" 17. Including Tomas Alvarez. His testimony next week could bring down Judge Delgado's entire corruption network. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Sophia's shoulders. After escaping her own violent past, she had built this place as a fortress for those brave enough to speak against power. The Alpine Witness Protection Center wasn't just a shelter. It was her redemption. "Double the perimeter checks," Sophia said. "And I want hourly check-ins with all residents." As Marta left, Sophia locked her office door and removed the photograph again. Gabriel Castellano, the man whose death she had celebrated with champagne. The man whose criminal empire had terrorized the city for a decade. The man who was somehow alive and watching her shelter. She studied his reflection in the glass older, harder, but unmistakable. Those eyes that seemed to see through deception had haunted her dreams long after his reported death. If he was alive, what did it mean for the witnesses whose testimony had dismantled his organization? Sophia moved to her computer and pulled up the security feeds. 17 souls trusted her with their lives. If Gabriel Castellano had found them, no one was safe. The snow continued falling, sealing them in this mountain refuge. Outside these walls waited a ghost. A man who should be dead, but instead was watching, waiting. For what, Sophia couldn't begin to imagine, but the thought chilled her more deeply than the winter storm. The alarm blared at 3:17 a.m., jerking Sophia from a restless sleep. Red emergency lights pulsed through the corridor as she rushed toward the security hub, barefoot and still pulling on her coat. "What happened?" she demanded, finding Marta already reviewing camera footage. "Tomas Alvarez is gone," Marta said, her voice tight. "His room is empty. No signs of struggle, but his bed hasn't been slept in." Sophia felt the floor tilt beneath her. Tomas was their star witness, the former accountant whose testimony could expose Judge Delgado's decade of judicial corruption and ties to organized crime. "Show me the exits," Sophia ordered, scanning the monitors. "Nobody leaves without being recorded." "That's just it," Marta replied, scrolling through footage. All exterior doors remained sealed, all cameras operational. He's just gone. Within an hour, they had searched every corner of the facility. Tomas had vanished like smoke, taking with him the evidence that could have brought down the corrupt power structure that had terrorized the city for years. By dawn, Sophia stood in her office, facing the 3 government officials who had flown in by emergency helicopter despite the storm. "Without Alvarez, the case against Delgado collapses," said Prosecutor Vargas, not bothering to hide his anger. 3 years of work, millions in protection costs, all gone. "We'll find him," Sophia insisted, though the words felt hollow even to her. "The ministry is questioning your leadership, Director Reeves," said the woman from the Justice Department. "This facility was supposed to be impenetrable. We're reviewing your funding allocation," added the third official. "The Alpine Center may need new management." After they left, Sophia stood alone at the window, watching their helicopter disappear into the gray sky. Everything she had built was unraveling. The shelter had been her life's work, her atonement for once being too afraid to testify herself. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "I know where your witness is," said a voice she had hoped never to hear again. "Castellano." Sophia whispered the name like a curse, her knuckles white around the phone. "You're dead." A low chuckle came through the line. Rumors of my death were strategic. Sophia glanced at her office door, ensuring it was locked. "Did you take Thomas?" "No, but I know who did." "Judge Delgado has friends in your organization, Director Reeves. Your witness is being held at an abandoned hunting lodge 15 kilometers north." She pressed her forehead against the cold window. "Why would you help me? Your organization is gone," he cut in. "What remains serves different purposes now." Sophia's mind raced. Gabriel Castellano had been the city's most feared crime lord, a man who controlled everything from drug trafficking to political corruption. His reported death in a yacht explosion had been celebrated as the end of an era. "What do you want?" she asked, knowing there would be a price. "Meet me at the East Service Road in 1 hour. Come alone." He paused. "And Sophia, when people ask about your movements tonight, tell them you're with me." "You want me to publicly associate with you?" The absurdity almost made her laugh. "That would destroy everything I've built. Not publicly. Just a cover story for tonight. Unless you prefer to explain to your staff why you're sneaking out during a lockdown." The line went dead. Sophia stood motionless, weighing impossible choix. If Thomas wasn't recovered before his court date, dozens of cases would collapse. Lives would remain in danger. The shelter would lose its funding. But trusting Gabriel Castellano felt like making a deal with the devil himself. She moved to her desk and unlocked the bottom drawer, removing the small handgun she kept there. Whatever game Castellano was playing, she wouldn't be unprepared. As she slipped into her heaviest coat and boots, Sophia thought of the 17 witnesses still under her protection. For them, she would walk into hell itself, even if hell wore the face of a ghost who should have stayed dead. The service road was nearly invisible under fresh snow when Sophia arrived, her breath clouding in the frigid air. A black SUV idled in the shadows, its engine a low rumble in the mountain silence. The passenger doors swung open. "You're punctual," said the ghost. Gabriel Castellano looked different from the man in police photographs. Leaner, with silver threading through his dark hair and a scar bisecting his right eyebrow. But his eyes remained the same, calculating, intelligent, seeing everything. "I'm armed," Sophia said, remaining at a distance. "I'd be disappointed if you weren't." He gestured to the vehicle. "We have a narrow window before they move Thomas again." Sophia hesitated, then climbed in, keeping her hand near her concealed weapon. "How do you know about Thomas?" Gabriel pulled onto the snow-covered road, driving with the confidence of someone who knew these mountains intimately. "I've been monitoring Judge Delgado's operation for months. He's become sloppy since my departure." "You mean since everyone thought you died? Was that your plan all along? Fake your death and operate from the shadows?" His lips curved slightly. "Sometimes the most effective position is one where you're no longer being watched." The SUV climbed higher into the mountains, wipers fighting against the relentless snow. Sophia studied his profile, searching for the monster she had expected. She saw a man dangerous still, but somehow different from the crime lord whose file she had memorized years ago. "Why help me?" she finally asked. "What do you gain?" Gabriel was silent for a long moment. "Let's just say we both want Delgado's network dismantled, for different reasons. And after tonight?" His eyes met hers briefly. "After tonight, we go back to being ghosts to each other. Unless you need me again." The abandoned hunting lodge glowed faintly through the snowfall, 2 armed guards visible at the entrance. Gabriel parked the SUV behind a ridge of pines and killed the engine. 3 men inside with Thomas, he said, checking his watch. They're waiting for extraction at dawn. A helicopter that will take him to a private airfield. Sophia peered through binoculars. How do you know their schedule? Because I designed their security protocols years ago. Gabriel removed a small case from beneath his seat and opened it to reveal a sophisticated tablet. The lodge still has the same electrical system. He tapped several commands, and suddenly the lodge plunged into darkness. Distant shouts echoed across the snow. We have 4 minutes before their backup generator kicks in, Gabriel said, pulling on a black cap and handing her one. Stay behind me. Move only when I signal, and remember, if anything happens to me, get Thomas to your vehicle and drive east. There's a safe house marked on this. He pressed a small tracker into her hand. They moved through the snow like shadows, approaching from the blind spot Gabriel had identified. When the first guard rounded the corner, Gabriel struck with practiced efficiency. A precise blow that left the man unconscious without a sound. Sophia watched with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. This man had once controlled the city's underworld through violence and fear. Now he was using those same skills to help her. But why? Inside, they found Thomas bound to a chair in the lodge's back room, his face bruised but his eyes alert. When he saw Gabriel, terror filled his expression. Castellano, he gasped. He's helping us, Sophia said, cutting Thomas' restraints while Gabriel secured the room. We need to move. As they led Thomas toward the exit, a shot rang out. Gabriel shoved Sophia behind a wall, drawing his own weapon with fluid precision. 3 more shots, then silence. Clear, Gabriel called, and they continued moving. Outside, Sophia helped Thomas into the SUV's back seat, noticing blood on Gabriel's sleeve. You're hit, she said. He glanced at the wound dismissively. Graze. Drive. As they pulled away, Sophia caught Gabriel watching the lodge in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. She realized with a chill that she had just participated in a violent operation led by a notorious criminal, and had never felt more certain she was doing the right thing. They returned to the shelter through a main entrance Gabriel somehow knew existed, though it wasn't on any official blueprints. Sophia settled Thomas in a secure room with a trusted guard before leading Gabriel to her private office to treat his wound. You should have medical staff do this, he said as she cleaned the bullet graze on his upper arm. And explain your presence how exactly, Sophia replied, applying antiseptic with perhaps more force than necessary. Dead crime lords tend to raise questions. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Fair point. Outside, the storm intensified, rattling the windows. The shelter's lights flickered once, twice, then died completely, plunging them into darkness until the emergency generators hummed to life, casting the room in dim blue light. Perfect timing, Gabriel murmured. Blackouts make for better confessions. Sophia finished bandaging his arm in silence, aware of his eyes on her. Why did you fake your death? She finally asked. He leaned back, studying her face. My organization had become unmanageable. Too many ambitious lieutenants, too many innocent casualties. I couldn't dismantle it from within. So you're what? Some kind of vigilante now. I'm cleaning up my own mess. His voice hardened. Judge Delgado rose to power under my protection. The witnesses in your shelter are in danger because of systems I helped create. Sophia sat across from him, the blue emergency lights casting shadows across his face. That doesn't explain why you're watching my shelter. Gabriel hesitated, something vulnerable briefly crossing his expression. 3 years ago, a young prosecutor was building a case against me. She received death threats, but refused protection. Her apartment was bombed the night before she was to present evidence. Sophia's breath caught. Elena Vasquez, my best friend. I didn't order it, Gabriel said quietly, but it happened under my watch. Your shelter protects people like her. People who stand against power. I've been ensuring it stays secure. The confession hung between them, in the blue-lit darkness as the storm raged outside, blurring the lines between protector and predator, justice and atonement. Morning brought clear skies and unwelcome visitors. Government officials, accompanied by local police and reporters, arrived demanding explanations for Tomas's miraculous return. Security footage showed nothing. A technical malfunction during the night had conveniently erased several hours of recordings. Sophia stood on the shelter's front steps, cameras flashing as she delivered her carefully constructed statement. Mr. Alvarez chose to temporarily leave our facility due to personal concerns about his safety. I was notified and immediately arranged his secure return. The Alpine Center remains committed to protecting all witnesses under our care. Director Reeves called a reporter. Sources say you were absent from the facility last night. Where were you during this critical security breach? Sophia felt her heart stutter. She hadn't told anyone she'd left. Someone was watching her movements. Before she could respond, a tall figure emerged from the crowd. Gabriel, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, looking nothing like the shadow operative from the previous night. He moved with casual confidence to stand beside her. Ms. Reeves was with me, he said, his voice carrying easily across the gathered crowd. I'm Anton Vega, security consultant. We were conducting an external assessment of the facility's perimeter defenses. Sophia maintained her professional composure despite her shock. Gabriel, or Anton, placed a proprietary hand at the small of her back, the gesture suggesting intimacy beyond professional collaboration. Your relationship appears close, the reporter pressed, sensing a story. Gabriel smiled, the expression transforming his face into something charming rather than dangerous. We've known each other for some time. Professional boundaries occasionally blur. The implication hung in the air, drawing attention away from the security breach and toward apparent scandal. Cameras flashed more intensely. Later, when the visitors had departed, Sophia confronted him in her office. What the hell was that? She demanded. You've just painted a target on my back. I've given them a distraction, Gabriel countered. They'll focus on our supposed relationship, rather than investigating how Tomas really disappeared and returned. It protects both of us. By suggesting I'm sleeping with a security consultant, my credibility is intact, he interrupted. Powerful women are always scrutinized for their personal choices. But they'll stop looking for security breaches, which is what matters. Sophia knew he was right, which only fueled her anger. This charade ends now. Actually, Gabriel said, checking his phone, we've been invited to the Justice Ministry's gala tomorrow night. Our presence is strongly encouraged. The gala invitation proved impossible to decline. The Justice Minister himself called, expressing his delight that Sophia would attend with her security consultant. The subtext was clear refuse, and funding questions would intensify. You planned this, Sophia accused as they drove toward the city in Gabriel's sleek black car. I anticipated it, he corrected. There's a difference. Sophia stared out the window at the city lights emerging as they descended from the mountains. I don't understand you, Castellano. One day you're a crime lord. The next you're helping witnesses testify against your former associates. Instead of answering, Gabriel took an unexpected exit, driving them through a section of the city Sophia didn't recognize. He parked outside an unremarkable apartment building and led her to the 3rd floor. Inside, Sophia froze. The apartment had been converted into an operations center. Monitors displayed security feeds from across the city, including several angles of her shelter that shouldn't have been possible. What is this? She whispered. My network, Gabriel said simply, gesturing to the screens. Judge Delgado's home, the prosecutor's office, police headquarters, your shelter's perimeter. A young woman appeared from another room, nodding respectfully to Gabriel before handing him a file. This is how you knew Thomas was taken, Sophia realized. You've been watching everything. Not everything, just the pressure points. Gabriel opened the file, revealing photographs of several prominent officials meeting with known criminals. Your shelter isn't the only institution that's been compromised. The corruption goes deeper than you realize. Sophia moved closer to the monitors, recognizing faces. Police officers who had promised to protect witnesses, government officials who controlled her funding, judges who presided over cases built on testimony from her shelter's residents. All these years, she said quietly, I thought I was building something clean, something that could stand against the corruption. But it's everywhere, isn't it? Gabriel stood beside her, his reflection appearing in the dark monitor screens. Not everywhere. Your shelter remains one of the few untainted spaces in this city. That's why I've been protecting it. By watching me, Sophia said, finally understanding the photograph that had started everything. By watching over you, he corrected softly. The Justice Ministry Gala glittered with false promises. Crystal chandeliers cast light over politicians, judges, and wealthy donors, who smiled and clinked champagne glasses while discussing justice reform and victim advocacy. Sophia moved through the crowd with practiced diplomacy. Gabriel at her side, playing his role as Anton Vega with disturbing ease. His hand occasionally brushed her lower back, maintaining their charade of intimacy, while he whispered observations about various attendees. The man by the fountain accepted $3 million to dismiss charges against the Moretti family last year, he murmured. The woman in red launders money through her charity foundation. Stop, Sophia hissed. I don't need a catalog of corruption, don't you? His eyes met hers. You've dedicated your life to fighting a system you only partially understand. Before she could respond, Judge Delgado himself approached, resplendent in his formal robes. The man who had ordered Tomas kidnapped smiled benevolently. Director Reeves, he greeted, kissing her cheek. Your reputation grows more impressive by the day. First, the miraculous return of our witness. Now this handsome security consultant. He extended his hand to Gabriel. Anton Vega, I presume. Your name seems new to our circles. Gabriel shook the offered hand, his smile never reaching his eyes. I prefer to work discreetly, Your Honor. Discretion is indeed valuable. Delgado agreed, his gaze lingering on Gabriel's face with the faintest flicker of uncertainty. After the judge moved on, Sophia noticed Gabriel checking his phone with increasing frequency. Finally, he guided her toward a quiet alcove. We need to leave, he said, showing her his screen. On it was a document, a judicial order signed by Delgado authorizing a raid on the Alpine Center, scheduled for dawn. He can't do that, Sophia whispered. We have protection agreements. He's claiming evidence of criminal conspiracy within your organization. The raid is designed to seize your records and identify all witnesses currently under protection. Cold fear gripped Sophia's heart. If those records become public, every witness in your program will be exposed, Gabriel finished, including those testifying against Delgado himself. We have to warn them, evacuate. Gabriel was already moving toward the exit. My people are implementing contingencies, but we need something more permanent than evacuation. What do you mean? His expression hardened into something that reminded her of the crime lord he had once been. It's time Judge Delgado faced his own judgment. Dawn broke over the mountains without the threatened raid. Whatever countermeasures Gabriel had implemented had apparently worked, though he refused to share details. Sophia had spent the night making frantic calls, preparing evacuation routes for her most vulnerable witnesses. When Gabriel arrived at her office that morning, she was reviewing security protocols with her staff. She dismissed them with a nod and closed the door. Delgado's raid was canceled, she said. What did you do? Gabriel settled into the chair across from her desk. I simply ensured certain evidence reached the federal prosecutor's office. Evidence suggesting Delgado himself was compromised. They've launched an internal investigation. Evidence you've been collecting through your surveillance network, Sophia said, the pieces finally connecting. You've been gathering leverage on everyone. Information is protection, he replied without apology. Sophia pressed her palms against her desk, leaning forward. Do you have files on me too, Gabriel? Have you been collecting my secrets alongside everyone else's? Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, perhaps. I've only ever watched your shelter for security threats. I don't believe you, she said, her voice rising. You manipulate everyone around you. You fake your death, create shadow networks, play people like chess pieces. You even manipulated me into this public charade to serve your agenda. To protect you, he countered, standing now. No. Sophia circled her desk to face him directly. Protection doesn't require control. You haven't changed at all, have you? You're still the man who built a criminal empire. You've just changed tactics. Gabriel's composure cracked slightly. What would you have me do? Stand aside and watch while people like Delgado destroy everything, while witnesses disappear. while your shelter falls. I would have you trust me to fight my own battles. Sophia's voice echoed in the small office. I would have you step into the light instead of manipulating from shadows. Real redemption isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about facing consequences. They stood inches apart, the tension between them electric. For a moment, Sophia thought he might reach for her, might bridge the gulf between them with something other than strategy. Instead, Gabriel stepped back, his expression closing. You're right about one thing, he said quietly. I haven't changed enough. He moved toward the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. Check tomorrow's news. Judge Delgado's corruption will be front-page news. Your witnesses will be safe. At what cost? Sophia asked. But Gabriel was already gone, leaving only questions in his wake. True to Gabriel's word, Judge Delgado's face dominated the morning headlines. Arrested in a pre-dawn raid after anonymous evidence revealed decades of judicial corruption. The city buzzed with the scandal. Reporters swarming government buildings, seeking comments from officials who had suddenly become scarce. Sophia should have felt vindicated. Instead, she felt hollow, wondering what lines Gabriel had crossed to make this happen so quickly. Her contemplation was interrupted by Marta, rushing into her office. Director, you need to see this. She handed Sophia a tablet displaying a breaking news story. The headline made her blood run cold. Witness Protection Director's secret lover. Criminal connections exposed. The article featured photos of her, with Anton Vega, at the Justice Ministry Gala, alongside security footage showing them entering her office late at night. An anonymous source claimed Anton Vega was connected to former criminal networks and suggested the Alpine Center had been compromised. They're waiting outside, Marta said grimly. At least 20 reporters. Sophia closed her eyes briefly. Get the residents to secure areas. No comments to anyone. The press ambush was worse than she'd anticipated. Microphones thrust toward her face, cameras flashing, voices shouting over one another. Director Reeves. Is it true you're romantically involved with a man connected to organized crime? Has your shelter been compromised by criminal elements? Are you using your position to protect former criminals? Sophia maintained her composure, delivering a brief statement about the shelter's continued commitment to witness protection and refusing to comment on baseless personal allegations. As she turned to re-enter the building, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Perhaps I can clarify matters. Gabriel stood at the edge of the crowd, immaculately dressed, his presence commanding immediate attention. The reporters swung toward him like compass needles finding north. My name is Anton Vega, he said smoothly. I've been consulting on security matters for various government agencies, including the Alpine Center. My relationship with Director Reeves is professional, though we've known each other for many years. Are you denying romantic involvement? A reporter called. Gabriel's smile was calculated. I'm stating that Director Reeves' integrity is beyond question. My background includes security work that sometimes requires unconventional methods. If anyone should face scrutiny, it's me, not her. The statement seemed to satisfy the reporters, who now directed their questions at Gabriel. He handled them with practiced ease, deflecting, charming, revealing nothing of substance while appearing transparent. Sophia watched from the shelter's entrance, a cold realization settling in her chest. He was sacrificing himself to protect her reputation, offering himself as the story to keep her shelter safe. It was manipulation of the highest order, wrapped in the guise of nobility. The media storm intensified over the following days. Gabriel's true identity remained hidden, but speculation about Anton Vega dominated the news cycle. Questions about the Alpine Center's security protocols and Sophia's judgment in hiring consultants threatened the shelter's credibility. Sophia maintained a rigid professionalism through it all, neither confirming nor denying her relationship with Anton, while emphasizing the shelter's continued commitment to witness protection. Gabriel had disappeared completely, not responding to her calls or messages. On the third day, a courier delivered a sealed envelope to Sophia's office. Inside was a formal confession, signed by Gabriel Castellano, admitting to faking his death and operating under the alias Anton Vega. The document detailed his surveillance of Judge Delgado's corruption network and included evidence that would exonerate Sophia from any wrongdoing. A handwritten note was paper-clipped to the confession. Release this if necessary to protect yourself and the shelter. My attorney has the supporting evidence. G. Sophia stared at the confession, understanding its implications. Gabriel had given her the power to destroy him, to reveal he was alive and operating illegally. It would clear her name and secure the shelter's future, at the cost of his freedom. She locked the document in her safe, then drove to the address listed for his attorney, an elegant office in the city's financial district. The attorney, a severe woman in her 60s, greeted Sophia without surprise. He said you might come. Where is he? Sophia asked. I'm not at liberty to say. The attorney slid a file across her desk. But he left this for you. Evidence of Judge Delgado's extensive corruption network, including officials who are still in power, names, dates, transactions. Everything you need to protect your witnesses permanently, without revealing Mr. Castellano's involvement. Sophia opened the file, seeing years of meticulously gathered evidence. He's still trying to control the outcome. He's giving you choices, the attorney corrected. What you do with this information is entirely your decision. As Sophia left with the file, rain began to fall, washing the city streets clean. She knew what she had to do. But first, she needed to find Gabriel one last time. The storm that had threatened all day finally broke as Sophia drove toward the mountain bridge where, according to Gabriel's attorney, he sometimes went to think. Rain lashed against her windshield, lightning illuminating the steep ravine below the narrow crossing. She found his car parked at the bridge's northern end, empty. Through sheets of rain, she spotted a solitary figure standing midway across the span, face turned toward the churning waters below. Sophia pulled her coat tight and stepped into the deluge. The wind nearly knocked her sideways as she made her way toward him, her hair plastered to her face within seconds. Gabriel didn't turn as she approached, though she knew he must have heard her. He stood motionless, hands gripping the railing, rain streaming down his face. You shouldn't be here, he said finally, his voice barely audible above the storm. Neither should you, Sophia replied, moving beside him. Your confession. You're giving me the power to destroy you. Lightning flashed, illuminating his profile. It's your right. I've interfered in your life, compromised your shelter, damaged your reputation. To protect me, Sophia acknowledged. The admission difficult but necessary, to protect my witnesses. Does that matter? Gabriel turned to face her fully. You were right about me. I haven't changed enough. I still believe control is the answer. Watching, manipulating, pulling strings from the shadows. The rain pounded between them, creating a curtain of water that seemed to isolate them from the world. I built my empire on the belief that power was protection, he continued. That controlling others was the only way to create order. When I faked my death, I told myself I was changing, using my methods for good instead of profit, but I was still playing God. Sophia gripped the railing beside him, feeling the bridge tremble with the force of the storm. Why did you really fake your death, Gabriel? The whole truth. He was silent for so long she thought he might not answer. When he did, his voice had lost its usual certainty. I was tired of the monster I'd become, tired of seeing fear in people's eyes. When Elena died, your friend, something broke in me. I realized I'd created a system that destroyed lives even when I didn't intend it. Another flash of lightning, another crash of thunder. The storm mirrored the turbulence between them. So I died, Gabriel continued. Created this shadow existence where I could dismantle what I'd built without starting a war. I told myself it was redemption. But redemption requires honesty, Sophia said, stepping into the light. The light would destroy everything, he countered. My enemies would retaliate against anyone I've helped, including you. Sophia moved closer, close enough to see the raindrops clinging to his eyelashes. There's a difference between protection and control, Gabriel. You can't save people by deciding their fates. Then what would you have me do? He asked, vulnerability breaking through his careful composure. Instead of answering, Sophia reached for his face, her fingers tracing the scar above his eye. Then she kissed him. Not strategically, not as part of any charade, but with the honesty they had both been avoiding. They drove in silence back to Gabriel's penthouse, a minimalist space high above the city, where floor-to-ceiling windows displayed lightning, illuminating the storm-darkened skyline. Neither spoke as they moved through the quiet rooms, shedding wet clothes, finding momentary refuge from the choices that awaited them at dawn. In the soft lamplight, Sophia studied the man before her, the scars mapping his body, telling stories of the life he had led, the violence he had both inflicted and endured. When he reached for her, it wasn't with the calculated precision she had come to expect, but with a hesitancy that revealed his vulnerability. Their coming together was neither a beginning nor an ending, but a parenthesis, a moment outside the narrative that had brought them here. No strategies, no manipulations, no pretense. Just two people finding connection in the eye of a storm they both knew would continue raging once morning came. Afterward, they lay awake, the city lights casting patterns across the ceiling. Gabriel traced patterns on her skin, his touch reverent. "When did you know I was alive?" he asked. Sophia turned to face him. "I suspected when witnesses started disappearing from Delgado's trials, only to reappear with better evidence. Someone was protecting them, improving their testimonies. It wasn't official." "And you didn't report your suspicions?" "No." The admission felt significant. "I thought whoever was helping them deserved to continue." Gabriel was quiet for a moment. "Tomorrow changes everything. The evidence against Delgado's network will become public. Questions will be asked about its source." "I have your confession," Sophia reminded him. "I could use it." "I know." His eyes held hers in the half-light. "That's your choice to make." She pressed her palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. "There's another way. Not your way or mine, but something different." "Tell me," he said. Sophia outlined her plan as the storm gradually subsided outside, the first hints of dawn appearing on the horizon. When she finished, Gabriel studied her face. "It would mean truly letting go of control," he said finally. "For both of us." "Yes," Sophia agreed. "That's what redemption actually costs." As morning light began to filter through the windows, they held each other, knowing this night existed outside of time, a memory to sustain them through what was to come. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters and cameras when Sophia arrived. The special hearing on judicial corruption had drawn national attention, with Judge Delgado's arrest exposing a network that reached into every corner of the city's power structure. Sophia wore simple, professional attire. No performance, no theater. She carried a single file folder containing the evidence Gabriel had compiled, now carefully edited to protect his identity while preserving the crucial facts. Inside, the hearing room fell silent as she was called to testify. The federal prosecutor, a stern woman who had flown in from the capital, approached the witness stand. "Director Reeves, you've submitted evidence regarding Judge Delgado's interference with witnesses under your protection. How did you obtain this information?" This was the moment. The question that could expose Gabriel or protect him, that could maintain his shadow existence or force him into the light. Sophia met the prosecutor's gaze steadily. "The evidence was gathered through a network of former victims who have been monitoring judicial corruption. They approached me after one of my witnesses was abducted, and this Anton Vega, who has been linked to you in recent news reports. What was his role?" Sophia didn't hesitate. "Mr. Vega was a security consultant who assisted in recovering our witness. His methods were unorthodox, but effective. He has since terminated his contract with the Alpine Center." "Are you aware of allegations that Mr. Vega has connections to former criminal elements in this city?" "I'm aware of the rumors," Sophia replied. "I'm also aware that many people with troubled pasts have valuable insights into how criminal systems operate. The Alpine Center believes in rehabilitation and second chances." The questioning continued for hours, but Sophia maintained her careful balance, revealing enough truth to validate the evidence while protecting its source. She never mentioned Gabriel Castellano, never confirmed or denied his existence. When she finally stepped down from the witness stand, she felt lighter. The evidence would speak for itself. Judge Delgado and his network would face justice. The witnesses under her protection would be safe. Outside the courthouse, away from the cameras. A nondescript car idled at the curb. Sophia approached and bent to the open window. Gabriel sat behind the wheel, his expression unreadable. "You didn't expose me," he said simply. "No," Sophia agreed. "Some ghosts serve a purpose." "What happens now?" She straightened, adjusting her coat against the autumn chill. "Now we both learn to protect without controlling." He nodded once, understanding. Then the car pulled away, disappearing into the flow of traffic. 6 months later, the Alpine Center had been transformed. With Judge Delgado's network dismantled, funding had increased, allowing Sophia to expand the facility and improve security. New witnesses arrived weekly, their testimonies strengthening cases against corruption throughout the region. Each evening at sunset, Sophia would climb to the bell tower of the converted monastery. The old bronze bell, once used by monks to mark the hours of prayer, now served a different purpose. She would ring it once, a single clear tone that echoed across the mountains, signaling to residents that another day had passed in safety. The anonymous donations continued to arrive monthly, supporting witnesses who needed to build new lives after their testimonies. Sophia never acknowledged their source, just as she never spoke of the man whose reflection she had first seen in the shelter's glass door. Sometimes, on clear nights, she would stand at her office window and send the presence watching from the darkness, not threatening, but vigilant, protection without intrusion, care without control. On this particular evening, as she rang the bell and watched the sun sink behind distant peaks, Sophia noticed a single white lily left on the tower parapet. She smiled, touching its petals gently. Some ghosts would always remain ghosts, moving through the world unseen. Some secrets would never be fully spoken, but in the space between shadow and light, between what was said and what remained silent, something precious had been preserved. Not just lives saved or justice served, but the possibility of redemption. The bell's final echo faded into the mountain stillness, carrying its message to whoever might be listening in the gathering dusk.